FIFA just announced it is selling the World Cup. Not the trophy, not the name. The commercial rights, broadcast deals, sponsorship, ticket revenue, licensing fees, everything that generates money from the biggest sporting event on Earth, bundled into a new entity called FIFA Forward Enterprise and offered to private investors for $4.2 billion. The total valuation placed on these rights is $20 billion. The company leading the search for investors is Thrive Capital, founded by Joshua Kushner. Joshua Kushner is the brother of Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner is Donald Trump's son-in-law, the same Donald Trump who called Gianni Infantino during the 2026 World Cup and had a red card overturned by phone call. The football world's response arrived within hours. None of it was polite, and some of it was the strongest language football's governing bodies have used against each other in years. UEFA released a formal statement immediately. This crosses a line that football's governing institutions should never cross. The soul and governance of football are not assets to trade, especially with zero transparency as to who gains financially. None of us are the owners of football. It is not FIFA's to sell. UEFA confirmed it was considering its legal position. European football associations called an emergency virtual meeting for this week, and the word circulating privately across those federations is boycott. If UEFA and its member associations follow through, there is no World Cup. Not a smaller World Cup. No World Cup. That is not a negotiating position. That is an ultimatum from the continent whose players, leagues, and clubs provide the product FIFA is attempting to value at $20 billion. CONCACAF, the confederation covering North America, Central America, and the Caribbean, the region that just spent 3 years preparing for and hosting the 2026 World Cup, said it shared the disappointment of many within our region and the game that this level of detail has been designed and shared publicly before any discussion with the relevant governance bodies and stakeholders has taken place. They were only made aware of FIFA's plan through media reports, not through FIFA. Not through any consultation process, through the Times and the Financial Times. The governing body for football across the continent that staged the tournament did not receive advance notice from FIFA that this announcement was coming. Hans-Joachim Watzke, UEFA Executive Committee member and Vice President of the German Football Association, was direct. A line is being crossed here. There is a strong consensus among the member associations on this matter. If European football stands united in opposing these plans, it carries significant weight. 6 European teams reached the quarterfinals of the 2026 World Cup. 3 made the semifinals. Spain won it. The players who fill these squads, the leagues that develop them, and the clubs that produce them are almost exclusively European. Without Europe, the product FIFA is trying to sell does not exist at the valuation it is claiming. The clubs and leagues that produce those players are now speaking directly. The European Leagues Board, representing the major domestic competitions across the continent, met in an emergency virtual session and issued a statement that went further than UEFA's. The World Cup should not be for sale. It is not the FIFA president's private equity asset. Its value is created day in and day out by leagues, clubs, players, and supporters who are being left without a voice or a vote on this matter. And then the players themselves. FIFPro Europe, the players' union, said it has deep concern over the proposal, warning that it risks turning the World Cup into an investable asset for private capital, a move that would fundamentally and irreversibly reshape the incentives underpinning the competitions in which players work, compete, and build their careers. In 48 hours, FIFA has managed to unite UEFA, every major European league, and the players' union against a single announcement. That is a remarkable achievement in the wrong direction. UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham posted a statement that went straight to the emotional core. Football does not belong to investors. It belongs to the people who fill the stands and who stand on the touchline week in, week out, rain or shine. The World Cup is not a product. It is the greatest competition in world sport. A sitting national leader responded to a FIFA commercial announcement within hours. Governments are now inside this conversation. Now here is the detail FIFA has tried to deny but cannot kill. According to 2 separate sources speaking independently to the Times, and to the Financial Times, Infantino himself stands to become commissioner of FIFA Forward Enterprise after his FIFA presidential term expires in 2031. FIFA denied this had been discussed. Both newspapers stood by their sources. The president, who told his critics 9 days ago to reflect, meditate, and pray, is, according to two of the world's most respected financial publications, designing his own exit package using the commercial assets of a global public institution. FIFA says that is not true. The Times and the Financial Times say their sources told them it is. One of those parties is wrong. The football world is waiting to find out which one. UEFA. The source closest to the deal, speaking to Fortune magazine, offered FIFA's framing of Europe's reaction. UEFA is lashing out because this changes the balance of power in football from being European-centric to global-centric. That framing contains a genuine truth that deserves honest acknowledgement. European football has extracted enormous financial benefit from the global game for decades. The Champions League generates billions. The Premier League generates billions. Meanwhile, a national football association in sub-Saharan Africa or the Pacific Islands receives $8 million from FIFA every 4 years to run its entire program. FIFA's plan would more than double funding to its member associations from $8 million to $20 million. For small federations, that is transformative. The argument that this is democratizing global football is real. And it is the argument FIFA will deploy every time UEFA escalates its opposition. Press reader, but here is what that argument cannot answer. Why were the confederations not consulted before the plan became public? Why did CONCACAF find out through newspapers? Why is the investor search being led by a company founded by the brother-in-law of the U.S. president who intervened in a World Cup disciplinary process 9 days ago? Why does the FIFA president reportedly benefit personally from the entity he is proposing? And why was all of this announced while 3 investigations into Argentina's conduct remain open, a 29 million signature petition sits unanswered, and the fine issued for 7 weeks of misconduct was $75,000 against $43 million in prize money? FIFA banked World Cup income of about $12 billion from the 2026 edition. The announcement of a $20 billion commercial entity came before a single controversy from that tournament had been resolved. UEFA Henry Bushnell, who has covered FIFA longer than most, wrote, "This isn't baseball. The FIFA World Cup remains the greatest sporting tournament on the planet, despite FIFA exploiting every commercial opportunity. But enough is enough. The relentless commercialization of football has become corrosive. It's threatening the things that made football the world's most popular sport." There is one more question nobody in football wants to answer out loud, but everyone is thinking. Private investors buy stakes to generate returns. Returns come from growth. The most obvious growth lever available to FIFA Forward Enterprise is frequency. Infantino has already publicly floated the idea of a World Cup every 2 years during the 2026 tournament. A 4-year cycle means 1 commercial cycle per investment horizon. A 2-year cycle doubles it. If private investors acquire a stake in the entity that controls World Cup commercial rights, they will have a direct financial interest in FIFA holding the World Cup more often. The players who are already playing beyond sustainable limits, FIFPro has documented this for years, would face an event that currently happens every 4 years, potentially happening every 2. The investors do not play the matches. The players do. That is the consequence nobody in FIFA's announcement mentioned. UEFA has one thing FIFA cannot replace: Europe. Without Europe's players, squads, and audiences, the $20 billion valuation dissolves. That is the leverage UEFA is pointing at in this week's emergency meeting. Whether Infantino blinks, whether Europe stays united, whether the emergency meeting produces an ultimatum FIFA cannot ignore or a compromise FIFA can manage, that is the story that will define the next decade of world football. Subscribe. This channel covers every development the moment it breaks.